On a brisk July day in 2025, the eyes of the nation turned to the marble steps of the United States Supreme Court. The air was thick with anticipation as reporters gathered, government officials waited anxiously, and ordinary citizens wondered what the future might hold. That morning, the Supreme Court delivered a decision that sent shockwaves through the federal government and reverberated across the country. The ruling was not just another legal milestone, it was a moment that would reshape the very structure of American governance. In an 8-1 emergency ruling, the court gave the Trump administration the green light to implement a sweeping executive order aimed at dramatically reducing the federal workforce. The decision was swift, decisive, and left little doubt about the court's willingness to intervene in the balance of power between the branches of government. This decision lifted a lower court's block, allowing the White House to move forward with its agenda while legal battles continue. For the first time in decades, the executive branch was granted unprecedented authority to reshape the federal bureaucracy, setting the stage for a historic restructuring that could affect millions of Americans. At the heart of the case is a fundamental question: how much authority does a president truly have to reshape government without explicit approval from Congress? The answer could redefine the separation of powers and has enormous implications for the future of American democracy. Federal agencies are now actively planning reductions in force, creating uncertainty and anxiety for government workers nationwide. Many are left wondering about their job security, while others debate what this means for the mission and effectiveness of public service in America. The story is far from over. As the legal and political battles continue, the court's action has undeniably set a new and transformative course, one that will shape the nation's government and the lives of its citizens for years to come. At the heart of this firestorm is Executive Order 14210, issued by the Trump administration in February 2025. The order mandates a fundamental downsizing of the federal government, instructing agencies to identify and eliminate all positions not explicitly required by law. Agency heads are empowered to execute large-scale reductions in force, overseen by the new Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk. The administration argues that decades of bureaucratic expansion have created a bloated system, and cutting these roles will reduce debt and make government more responsive. The order shifts the government toward a more corporate, results-driven model, with some agencies planning workforce cuts of 50% or more. Critics warn that the distinction between critical and non-critical roles is often subjective, and that slashing support staff and researchers will harm agencies' core missions. The order marks a move away from career stability in government, with profound implications for attracting and retaining talent. The legal battle began soon after Executive Order 14210 was issued, when federal employee unions and public interest groups sued to block it. U.S. District Judge Susan Ilston in California issued a nationwide injunction, finding the order likely violated federal law and the separation of powers. The Trump administration appealed, arguing the president has broad authority to manage the federal workforce. The Ninth Circuit refused to lift the injunction, prompting the administration to file an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court. The administration claimed it was suffering irreparable harm by being blocked from implementing its agenda. The White House framed the fight as a battle against judicial overreach and obstruction of the president's will. This set the stage for a high-stakes Supreme Court showdown over the future of the federal government. In a significant move, the Supreme Court issued an 8-1 decision through a brief, unsigned order, granting the administration's urgent request to lift the nationwide injunction. This decision, while concise, sent shockwaves through the legal and political communities, as it signaled a major shift in the ongoing debate over executive power. The majority of justices indicated that the president was likely acting within his constitutional authority to oversee the executive branch and make critical decisions about the size and structure of the federal workforce. This interpretation of presidential power could have far-reaching implications for how future administrations manage government operations. By lifting the injunction, the court determined that the potential harm to the government from being blocked in its actions was greater than the possible harm to federal employees. This balancing of interests underscored the urgency the court saw in allowing the administration to proceed, at least for now. Importantly, the decision is procedural. It does not represent a final judgment on the legality of every individual layoff or policy. However, it immediately removed the most significant legal obstacle standing in the way of the administration's sweeping plans, opening the door for rapid changes. Justice Sotomayor, in her concurrence, stressed that while the administration could move forward, each agency's specific layoff plans must still comply with all applicable laws and regulations. She made it clear that the door remains open for future legal challenges if agencies overstep their bounds. Almost immediately after the ruling, a wave of activity swept through federal agencies. Plans that had been stalled for months were suddenly reactivated, and employees began to receive notices and instructions about the next steps. The White House quickly celebrated the Supreme Court's decision, framing it as a strong validation of the president's authority to reshape the federal government and pursue his policy agenda without further delay. For federal workers across the country, however, the ruling marked the beginning of a new era, filled with anxiety and uncertainty. Many now face difficult questions about their future, as the administration's plans move forward at full speed. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was the lone dissenter, authoring a forceful critique of both the executive order and the court's decision. She argued the court was acting too hastily, overriding the district court's careful fact-finding and allowing a potentially illegal order to take effect. Jackson described the order as a wrecking ball aimed at the foundations of the American civil service, warning it usurps Congress's power to create and fund federal programs. She contended the president's directive was an unconstitutional power grab, enabling the executive to dismantle programs by firing the people who run them. Jackson warned of chaos and loss of expertise, with experienced public servants dismissed for political reasons rather than performance. Her dissent framed the case as a battle over the nature of American governance and the future of a nonpartisan civil service. While her opinion did not prevail, it stands as a roadmap for future legal challenges. The Supreme Court's ruling has immediate, real-world consequences for hundreds of thousands of federal employees, fundamentally altering the landscape of public service in the United States. It's not just the workers themselves who are affected, but also the millions of Americans who depend on their dedication and expertise every day. Government workers now face the possibility of losing their jobs, not for performance, but because their roles are deemed non-critical or expendable. The stability and sense of purpose that once defined civil service careers has been upended, and entire agencies now face operational risks and uncertainty about their future. Massive cuts at agencies like the Department of Energy and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health could cripple research, halt innovation, and undermine safety and public health efforts that protect millions. Programs that monitor workplace safety, respond to health emergencies, and advance scientific discovery may be scaled back or eliminated. Everyday Americans will feel the effects: longer wait times for Social Security, delays in veterans' benefits, and slower responses to urgent needs will become more common. The new reality could deter talented professionals from public service, making it harder to attract and retain the next generation of leaders and experts. This could lead to a brain drain, as experienced workers leave, and fewer young people choose government careers. The result is a less capable government, struggling to meet the needs of its citizens and to respond to new challenges. In the long term, the government may not only shrink in size, but also lose its effectiveness in serving the public. The ruling's impact will ripple through every corner of American life, touching families, communities, and the nation as a whole. The Supreme Court's ruling was a major victory for the administration, but the legal fight is far from over. The underlying lawsuit challenging Executive Order 1.210 now returns to the Ninth Circuit for a full hearing on the merits. Regardless of the outcome, the losing side will likely appeal to the Supreme Court for a final, comprehensive decision. Meanwhile, unions and advocacy groups are filing lawsuits against specific agency layoff plans, arguing they violate other federal laws and employee protections. These agency-specific battles will multiply, creating a complex legal landscape and forcing courts to define what counts as a non-critical job. The answers to these questions will shape the future of the federal workforce for years to come. The legal battle over the future of American government is just beginning. The Supreme Court's emergency ruling is more than a decision about federal jobs. It could redefine the balance of power in Washington. By allowing large-scale workforce reductions, the court signaled strong deference to presidential authority, with far-reaching implications for future administrations. Supporters see the ruling as a victory for efficiency and accountability, arguing that a smaller, more nimble government is better for taxpayers. Opponents warn it erodes checks and balances, empowers the president to bypass Congress, and threatens the principle of a nonpartisan civil service. The decision raises fundamental questions about what kind of government Americans want and how it should serve the public. As agencies move forward with cuts, the real-world effects will become clear, and Congress may be forced to act. This ruling opens a new, uncertain chapter in American governance. The outcome of this debate will shape the future of the republic.